Welcome to Living in the Contrast with me, your host, Liz Santiago. Today's episode is going to be a conversation exploring the relationship between uncertainty and faith. I want to start with some questions. What if I told you that certainty was not guaranteed, even when you are making steps that are in alignment with the path or the expansion you seek? What if certainty just wasn't there? What if all you had was a dream that excites you? Would you still take action even with that doubt playing in your mind? Sometimes doing the things that are in alignment with your favorite timeline or your highest and best self are going to feel uncertain. Sometimes they don't feel good right away. I can say this now with certainty 4 years after leaving a 16-year relationship, because when I first left, I was terrified, deeply afraid that I was making the wrong choice, afraid I was losing a soulmate. I was riddled with fear to the point of nausea and exhaustion from the mental load I carried every single day. And I had moments of certainty, but those were often met with fear and doubt in the same day. I would have these emotional upward swings and then downward swings. I was leaving everything I knew, everything that was familiar. In some ways, I felt like I was taking my boys away from their dad, but that wasn't my intent. And I was leaving perceived safety in having a two-income household. I was leaving the attachment I had and the comfortability in being with someone for so long. It's like there's just a quiet knowing in that. And yet something in me during those moments of clarity knew that the environment I was in, the relationship, could not sustain who I was deeply desiring to become and who I was working towards. It was hurting and shrinking both of us as we clung to each other. So I left, uncertain in moments, but taking the first step towards trusting myself to know what's right for me. Leaving was the beginning of the end of some of the darkest moments of my life. And in sitting in that darkness, I was able to find my light. Contrast is what teaches us. Looking back now, 4 years later, I realize uncertainty wasn't telling me I was making the wrong choice. It was simply asking me to trust myself before I had proof. I learned to sit with myself, to be present, to give myself grace for not knowing what I just didn't know, to observe my life and how things feel, to observe the way I make other people feel and how they make me feel, to see my impact on the world around me, and ultimately to trust my inner knowing, my intuition. It required practice because as doubt is going to creep in periodically to test what you truly want, you have to keep leaning back into the information you collect by observing yourself and everything around you. You begin to naturally pull back from environments, knowing finally why they cause that pit in your stomach. I don't know about you, but my stomach always was upset around people who were not really aligned with me energetically, people who made me feel less than, or environments that just weren't really supportive and loving in the ways that I needed and the ways that I was trying to give. And you really start to move with more faith. You return over and over again to the choice of faith. We talked last week about things being a practice, and faith is one of those things that we need to practice often, especially when we see uncertainty coming into the picture. And I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be easy all the time. This week, I faced countless moments of uncertainty once more in my life, but in a different way. And as I pummeled forward, faith was at my back, calling me to keep stepping forward, keep doing more, one more step. And doubt just continued to creep into my mind. I had a lot of questions circling. What if I'm not good enough? What if this dream is unattainable? What if this is already as good as it gets? What if I'm wasting time? What if I fail? Those are fear-based questions. And what I've learned is that in order to shift these in real time, we must become observers. Fear isn't always meant to be obeyed. Sometimes it's meant to be observed, to notice the patterns in our minds. and use that information to gently shift thoughts manually. We are overriding the system our minds have been programmed to operate under. We are creating new programs and new patterns. And as my old programs showed up, I took a moment now to observe. And after analyzing the data, just taking time to think about what I observed, I wrote these questions to challenge the previous ideas that were spinning in my head. What non-existent cup am I trying to fill with worthiness? Is failure ever truly possible if I never give up? What if I succeed? What if I learn? What if I get more chances to meet like-minded people? What if I can create even more community? What if we are never wasting time but collecting data? The data we collect boils down to this. This action leads to this result. And I'm going to give you a few examples of that. I snack late and I overindulge. The result is me not accomplishing my goals. Another example. I doom scrolled for an evening and the result was anxiety and this feeling of I'm wasting time. Versus different actions. Like I took a walk and the result was a small burst of energy, or maybe even a looser feeling body, less aches, a more positive mindset. I wrote a page, I painted a picture or created something, and then I let myself watch a movie after. The result was feeling balance between accomplishment and enrichment. The uncertainty I started with became the teacher I got creative with. It showed me where I needed to reframe my thoughts. It gave me opportunities to find new questions and perspectives on those old fear-based mindsets. And honestly, it isn't talked enough about the resource that it truly is. So often, uncertainty is treated as this definitive no. It's a sign that we aren't aligned with whatever decision we're considering. But what if uncertainty isn't a stop sign? What if it's an invitation? Uncertainty brings choice, intentionality, and agency back into our lives. Agency is our ability to continuously choose our path rather than simply inherit one. Uncertainty invites us to pause, to get curious, explore, and ask, what do I actually want? Because if we always know, if everything is immediately clear, are we actually choosing it? Or are we simply continuing what we've always known? Curiosity is where choice lives. Maybe uncertainty isn't something to fear. Maybe it's the very space where we reclaim our agency and discover who we're becoming. It's time to stop seeing uncertainty as weakness and start recognizing it as a resource, one that gently guides us into our next phase of growth and expansion. Maybe faith isn't the absence of uncertainty. Maybe faith is choosing the next step while uncertainty walks beside you. And maybe that's what it means to live in the contrast. Thank you so much for listening. I love you, and I hope you have a great day.